Hi everyone. I'm here today to talk to you about sex education in your teenager. Sex education really starts in the school system. Most kids have health class or the special 5th grade meeting in Connecticut. These classes teach us about STIs, HIV/AIDS, and also pregnancy. And they really only touch on a few things about how to protect yourself. That's where the home comes in. It's important for parents to talk to their teenagers about sex education as frequently as they tell them to do their homework. Now, most parents are either embarrassed or they're nervous that if they talk to their kids about sex and how to prevent any sort of illness or pregnancy, they think that it's going to give them the green light to go and have sex everywhere. This isn't true. I believe if we give our kids all the fundamentals on what they need to know, they'll be able to make the right decisions later on in life. On the Mayo Clinic website, I found that in the past 10 years, many studies have shown that constantly giving kids condoms or having them readily available doesn't encourage them to have sex, but does encourage them and gives them the tools so that way when they do make that mature decision, they do it the proper way. I also found that 1 in every 2 teenagers is having sex. That's 1 in every 2. And in 2005, they did a study that 40% of these teenagers who had sex for the very first time used a condom. And 14% of those teenagers had 4 or more partners. And 18% of them used other forms of birth control. I feel that these numbers could be a little bit higher if sex education was pushed more in the school system. Most kids learn about sex from peer-to-peer talk. They also learn about it on TV, music videos, but majority of the time it's through talking with their fellow students. That's where they spend the most of their time is in school. So if we can expand our health classes to give them all of the options, this might give them better tools and a better understanding and leave less room for questions. A recent study at the American Journal of Public Health found that teens who started using condoms the first time that they had sex had a lower risk of contracting any HIV, AIDS, or any STDs. A group of scientists did follow 4,000 students over a span of 7 years, and they found that those numbers were 30% of those kids who did use condoms were less likely to contract any sort of disease. On the CDC website, I found this lovely list of STDs, and they do call them STIs. It really depends on what journal you're reading. We have some classic ones like hepatitis, chlamydia, HIV/AIDS, genital warts, gonorrhea, herpes, and then we have some that people might not even know about or didn't even know were STDs, STIs. We have scabies, which is a skin parasite, and jock itch, pubic lice, yeast infections, and we do have the human papillomavirus, which is not new, but it is one of the newer ones. They have a vaccine. It is a series of 3 shots, and I was privileged enough to get it at an older age, but I did receive it. If you are going to talk to your children about this or with their doctor, me personally, I did have a lot of pain in my arm, so you might want to discuss that with their doctor. Now, because most teenagers do discuss sex with their fellow teenagers, and that's where they learn most of the information, I did find on the Planned Parenthood website a lot of myths that some teenagers do believe. And you'd actually be shocked on what kids think. So the first one I found is, everybody's doing it. And you really shouldn't believe everything you hear. It may seem like everyone is doing it, but people are exaggerators. Less than 48% of high schooler students have had sex. So be an individual. Make sure that you trust your kids that just because their peers are doing it doesn't mean that they have to. Sex is an important decision, and it should be made in a mature setting. You'll marry the first person you have sex with. And as you can see, I did put the Teen Mom logo because I am an avid watcher of it, and I think it's more to just get behind the minds of these girls. It's very scary. At their age, I was probably thinking about sex, but I was so involved in theater and other things that having a baby was not on my list of things to do, let alone trying to keep a guy. It always ends up at the end of these episodes where it's a Blair Witch Project shot, very close up to the face, kind of like this, and the girl always says, "I wish I could have done something different," and the guy is never in the picture. So sadly, this one is rarely true. I'm not saying that everybody goes that route, but it is rarely true. Even though your first love or the first person you have sex with, it might feel right and it might feel like that's going to be forever, but the reality is that most first sexual partners and relationships are short-lived. 8 out of 10 first-time sexual relationships last 6 months or less, and 1/4 are really one-timers. You really want to stress to your kids that having sex isn't a way to keep somebody in their life, and there are consequences that if you make these rash decisions. This is another one that I found on Teen Mom. Myth: you can't get pregnant on the first time you have sex. If you are ovulating, it doesn't matter. If it's your first time, your second time, your 1,000,000th time, if you're having sex, you are running the risk of getting pregnant. Sperm enters into the tubes, meets an egg, it can happen. And I think that some of these myths need to be broke for teenagers, because this myth has been around for a long time. Girls can't get pregnant on their during their period. There's a chance that you can get pregnant if you have sex during your period. Once in the vagina, sperm can stay alive for several days, and when I did the research, I read that it was 7 days. That could have changed because I'm not sure if my information was dated, but 7 days seemed to be the consensus with all of my research. Drinking Mountain Dew will prevent pregnancy. This has also been another one that's been around for a while now. With the recent GMO talks, I do believe that all these chemicals are doing something to our body, but it's not preventing pregnancy. The rumor that there's an ingredient in Mountain Dew and other popular sodas lowers guys' sperm count, and this has been around for years. The super truth is that doing the dew, you still create sperm, so this isn't a form of birth control. I've also heard that guys who wear tight pants and some other crazy notions that, guys won't produce enough sperm for you to get pregnant. It really only takes one sperm. Myth: condoms can be reused. That is gross. And that should be the number one thing that you stress to your teenager is when a condom is used, it is very sticky and you do not want to mix bodily fluids with other bodily fluids. And if you have many partners, that's also putting them at risk for contracting some sort of disease. Once a condom has been removed from its wrapper, you have to use it or you have to lose it. And once a condom has been used during sex, it is no longer good. Throw it away. Myth: guys can use plastic wrap if they don't have a condom. There's a movie, and I believe the name of it is How to Be a Player, and 2 guys in it are running around store to store because they don't have any condoms. This would probably be a good example to show your kids on what not to do, because they truly believe in this movie that if you use saran wrap, everything would be okay, and it is a good substitute for condoms. Plastic wrap, baggies, or anything like that, they're great for food storage, but they are not okay for an alternative to condoms. Common household products will not protect you from pregnancy or STDs. Your best bet is to get out your wallet and to buy some condoms. Condoms are specifically made to provide a good fit and good protection during sex. Oral sex doesn't count as sex. The reality is there is no one definition of having sex. For some people, it's penis to vagina intercourse. For other people, sex is penis and anus intercourse. For some people, it could be with sex toys or mutual masturbation, genital rubbing, watching porno together. For some people, it can include oral genital contact, and for some, it really just depends on the person. Sex isn't defined by one action. It really can be many different things, and it depends on who you are. People decide for themselves on what it means to be having sex. So you really want to let your kids know that just because a penis doesn't enter a vagina, it is still considered sex. You can get herpes of the mouth. We did have a patient in my office who got herpes of the eye. You can get it in any sort of moist, wet orifice in your body, and I think kids need to know that. That is a great myth that has been around for years and is still believed by teenagers, that just because you have oral sex or you have anal sex, that it doesn't count and you still can't get any diseases. I think this needs to be stressed because this does come up in a lot of peer pressure atmospheres. Now I have a 13-year-old cousin, a 9-year-old cousin, and I have a 16-year-old cousin. And I asked them what they thought or if they have heard about any of these specific myths, and they have. They also heard a few that I didn't mention, which were if you have sex standing up or in a pool or a bathtub or jacuzzi, you can't get pregnant. If the girl urinates or sneezes for 15 minutes, that you can't get pregnant. And they also heard that if you do jumping jacks, that you will not get pregnant. When I asked them if they believed these, they said no, that they did not, because their parents already had talks with them. And I feel that starting at age 9 is not too young, because girls now are having sex and developing around that age. It's important to start early and, discuss options and really evaluate your child to find out what their mentality is and what they can handle at that time. Well, I hope you enjoy my discussion about sex education with your kids. I hope this enlightens you, and I hope that you too can have this conversation with them and enlighten them. Thank you. Have a good day.